you so much. All right, Miss Bradley, before we get started, the biggest issue that we've been having to address, I think, at each hearing, and I know that you've been working on, for quite some time, is achieving service for Mr. Castillo. Have we made progress in that regard?
When I checked on it, Your Honor, I was told that we have not heard back from DIF, but we did get the apostille from the Secretary of State. That was sent, I believe that had to be translated, but I believe the papers have been sent to DIF at this point, but we have not received notification of service. Ms. Crouch has actually been monitoring that very closely, and if I've misstated it, I hope she will clarify for the court.
All right. Is Ms. Bradley's summary correct, Ms. Crouch?
Yes, ma'am. The documents were all notarized and translated, and they were sent to the Mexican consulate nearest Mr. Castillo's home.
All right. And we have the correct address this time?
We used the most recent address that we had on file. This is the address that Mr. Castillo provided to DIF a few months ago.
Okay. All right. Well, so it's underway. We'll hopefully have successfully completed the process by the next time we're in court. So with that was my biggest question. Before we get started with anything else, Ms. Bradley, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Lewis, can you please tell us about what's happening with these boys, where they are, how they're doing?
Yes, the boys are currently in a therapeutic foster home in Muleshoe, Texas. They're doing pretty well. They are having a few enuresis behaviors that are a little concerning, but they're being addressed in therapy, and with the foster home, she's just trying to keep up with that. Other than that, they're doing pretty well.
What is pretty well? I mean, like, what kind of services are they getting?
They are getting weekly therapy along with behavior management therapy. They are both in school. And then I do know Brian was looking into playing basketball this season, but he was unable to because he's been having some behavior issues at school. So that is concerning, the behavior issues at school, but I know that they're being addressed at the foster home and at school.
I did want to ask you about those because that was a concern the last time we were here. So what is happening to try to address these behavior issues?
I know they're working on it in trauma-informed therapy, and also I do know when I talked to the foster mom last, he had been doing actually pretty well at school, so making progress in that.
By pretty well, do you mean passing, or what are his grades like?
I will have to follow up on his exact grades, but I do know he was passing, yes.
Okay, does it look like he's going to go on to the next grade?
Yes.
What about the brother?
He is doing well. He is also in therapy, individual trauma-informed therapy. He does struggle with interpersonal relationships at times, but that is also being addressed in his therapy. And I was not told about too many issues with him at school.
Okay, so Jacob had really serious behaviors like starting a fire, burning down the house back when he was 5 or something like that. And it seems like throughout the case, they've kind of changed places sometimes. Sometimes Jacob will be having all the issues, then Brian will be having serious issues. So right now, is it Brian that's struggling the most? Is that what you're telling us?
That is what I'm being told right now, yes.
Okay. And are they getting, other than the therapy that you mentioned, are they getting any other services?
I do know that they have a behavior management.
Sorry?
With individual therapy. behavior management counselor coming in, and they have their individual therapy.
Oh, okay. What does the behavior management counselor do?
Just addresses their behaviors and tries to work with them on correcting behaviors, doing, better on those.
And that's once a week?
Yes.
Okay. So each of them are getting therapy twice a week through the department. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Is there any therapy provided by the school?
No, I do not believe so. Not through the school.
Okay. Are the caregivers still willing to keep the children? There were some issues, I think, a while back about possibly giving notice.
To my knowledge, she has not told me she's giving notice. She is willing to work with the boys still.
All right. And what is the permanency goal?
Unrelated adoption.
And are they anywhere close to being adoptable at this point?
Right now we'd have to wait till we get that service for Mr. Castillo, and then we would move forward with that. The foster home that they're in right now is not willing to adopt them. It's not an adoptive home, so we would have to look for an adoptive home for them.
Okay, let's talk about service. The court asked what the status was. Have you had any contact with Mr. Castillo, Alejandro Castillo?
I have not.
What kind of efforts have you made to reach him?
We have tried to reach him on his last known phone number, but have not had any luck on that.
When you say we, is that you?
Miss Crouch has attempted to contact him.
Okay. Have you tried mailing him any letters or anything like that to the last known address?
I am not sure if we have mailed him a letter. I would have to follow up on that.
Have you tried to contact him on social media?
Not at this time, no.
Have you made any contact with his attorney, Richard Saldivar, to see if contact has been made through his attorney?
I have not followed up with him, but I will.
Okay. So we're set for trial here in a few months, right?
Yes,
all
ma'am.
Right. And is there anything else you want to add?
Not at this time.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Saldivar, questions for Ms. Lewis?
Yes. When you so have you personally called the number with Miss Crouch, or is it just Miss Crouch?
Just Miss Crouch at this time, but I plan on doing it probably next week, trying to reach out to him again.
Okay. And as far as his address, will you, if a letter has not been sent to him, will you be sending him a letter at his current address?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any family members that could possibly make contact with him, to your knowledge?
I will look into that. I have not been told, but I will gladly look into that.
Okay, pass the witness. Thank you, Judge.
All right. Mr. Finkel, any questions?
I don't have any questions, Your Honor. Just the report.
Okay. Can I ask you, Mr. Saldivar, have you had any communication with your client?
No, Judge. I've called the number myself, and I've sent him Facebook messages. I see him on there. I just haven't gotten a response from him. I was just going to call Ms. Crouch to see if she was able to leave a voicemail or something for him.
All right, Mr. Saldivar, you may proceed.
Yes, Ms. Crouch, have you tried to contact my client, Mr. Castillo?
Yes, I have.
And how have you tried to contact him?
I have texted, called, and sent emails to the email addresses that were indicated for Mr. Castillo in their CPS records from Minnesota.
And just for the record, what's the phone number and the email you're trying to contact him on? Okay. While you're looking for the email, when you call, are you able to leave voicemails for him?
I have not left a voicemail. Mr. Castillo's primary language is Spanish, so I would need to arrange an interpreter to leave a voicemail in his primary language.
Okay, and is that something the department can do as well?
Yes, we can do that.
To your knowledge, has any letters been sent out to his last known address?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, and that's something the department can do as well, correct?
Yes, that is.
Okay. And as far as social media, has the department used social media to try to reach out to him?
No, we have not.
Okay. Just pending that information, I have no other questions for Ms. Crouch.
Okay. Ms. Bradley, do you have any questions for her?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Crouch, is the department asking that the children remain in care and under the conservatorship or temporary conservatorship of the department as it is in their best interest?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
Mr. Finkel, any questions?
Just one, Your Honor. I'm curious, Ms. Crouch, if Mr. Castillo were to answer your phone call, how would you communicate with him if he needs an interpreter? You said you didn't leave messages because you don't have an interpreter.
Yes, sir. So we have been using just Google Translate to send text messages and emails to be able to communicate with him. So I did have a short spiel ready to set up something with him later once we had been able to get an interpreter. But with several months of no communication back from Mr. Castillo, I did not anticipate that he would answer the phone.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
All right. Okay, so once again, Mr. Saldivar, is there anything you can add? You said you've had no success reaching out on your own. Anything you know about, I believe we discussed previously that he indicated some sort of need for surgery or medical treatment, but you've had no recent communication with him to verify if that's true.
No, just the last contact that I had with him was back in October when we had a FGC last year, and he was there. We were able to talk to him. He updated the address to the department. I think there was the street was off of the original address that they had, so he corrected that. We got a good phone number for him, but after that, he did say that he needed surgery. He did indicate that when he does work, he goes out into the field or wherever it is. They have no internet connection out there or phone service, so he says he goes out for months to work, and so I haven't heard from him since then, Judge.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Saldivar. Mr. Finkel, do you have anything to add regarding the boys?
Your Honor, I had a video conference with them this week, and they are doing well. They seem to have regressed a little bit since termination of the mother's rights. They are doing well in school academically, having a little bit of troubles behaviorally. They are making A's and B's and a couple C's. One thing that they asked is that if they do move, and I don't know if this has been discussed with them, but they mentioned that if they move, they want to be moved closer to their sisters. They have apparently been having occasional, maybe once a month, Zoom meetings with their sisters, and they both asked that they would like to do that more frequently, if possible, maybe a couple times a month at least. They do have a behavioral therapist who can't give any information unless she's subpoenaed. But as far as the counselor, I feel like the counseling has been by Zoom, and I feel like it's not, they're not getting much benefit from it. If there was any possible way that they could have in-person counseling, I think that would benefit them more. I just wanted to bring that to the courts and the department's or attention. I feel like at their age, having a Zoom meeting for counseling, and they kind of get distracted, and it's not as personable. But other than that, they were talkative and, asked questions about what was going on, and they're good kids. They're just struggling a little bit.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Finkel. I appreciate that. And I saw you nodding your head quite a bit, Ms. Lopez. Is that your assessment as well regarding these boys?
She was present with us.
Okay.
I was actually there at the Zoom meeting with them, but I speak with them weekly, and I just felt like when I came onto this case that I really needed to make a bond with them because I knew that they were not going to be able to stay at that home. The foster mom had told me that they would really love to adopt them, but they're older. They're in their 70s, and they just don't feel like it would be fair to the boys. And so, yes, and they know that they're not going to be able to stay there. And I think the closer it gets to the end of school, the more anxiety they have because they realize that probably they're not going to be there. And they have already adopted 2 other children, and they're very close to those boys, the foster parents.
So. All right. Now, I'm sorry if is this a therapeutic foster home or a treatment?
It is a therapeutic foster home, ma'am.
Okay. I mean, and is there a limit on how long they can stay there, or not? There's not. Okay.
No, so.
Okay. Well, well, thank you, Ms. Lopez. Does anyone else need to address the court at this time? If not, based on the testimony the court has heard today, the court is going to find that continuation of the placement for the children is in their best interest, that all of their physical and emotional needs are being met there presently, and that it's in their best interest to remain there at this time. The court will find that the department, as the through Belong as the managing conservator, is making reasonable efforts to achieve permanency for these children. And the chief among them is addressing the parental rights of the father, Mr. Alejandro Castillo. Court finds that he is not in compliance with his plan of service, and he's been unresponsive to efforts by the department to reach out to him and to his own attorney, who's actually been, someone he's been aware of for not just the span of this case, but as you all know, the prior case as well. And so I think that's even more revealing when you're looking at the length and the history of this case, that there's been such a significant drop in contact, communication, and participation. The court, though, does feel like the department through Belong needs to be, I would recommend mailing monthly written correspondence, and I know that requires a translator. But I mean, I think in terms of reasonable efforts, you have to not just try to attempt those calls, but there needs to be written communication about the status of the case, and obviously reminding him of upcoming settings and how to participate. What I'd like to do for those communications, if I finish this case right now and wrap this up, I will give you the Zoom settings for those next 2 hearings, because I'm assuming the parties, I think there's already a Rule 11 agreement in place that all parties are in agreement to proceed via Zoom on both the next hearing and our trial. So I'll give you those to include in the written correspondence. And I think that should cover our bases regarding notice once we get that citation fully executed as well. So we're doing what we can. I feel bad that these boys are struggling, but they're in a home that is working with them. I do think that they need in-person counseling. I don't see how, virtual therapy is going to work with kids with this many issues and with all that they've been through. And so I realize they're getting a behavioral, getting behavioral therapy and coaching as well. But, the bottom line is these kids have been through some significant trauma, and I think have some significant mental health issues. And I think in-person counseling is necessary. So I need Belong to work to get that in place. And I'm ordering that at this time. So we will be back for a permanency review before final order on July the 7th at 9:30. And we'll have a final trial on August the 4th at 10:30. All right. Is there anything else that I need to clarify, Ms. Bradley?
Yes, Your Honor. I do know that you ordered Belong to ensure that the boys get in-person counseling. Are you ordering them to transport the children to the in-person counselor's office? I wanted to be clear on that.
Ms. Lopez?
Your Honor, if I could speak to that, the foster mom was also with us on the call, and when she heard Mr. Finkel's concern, she did say that they would be willing to transport the boys to Lubbock, which is about 70 miles from their home.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's very helpful.
Your Honor, I have one
yes.
thing just for the record. I am announcing not ready since my client's not here.
I understand, and I will. I think we'll all recognize that you're not ready and that your client's not helping you out. So,
Thank you,
all
Judge.
right. Thank you. Is there anything else? Okay. If not, an adoption hearing today, and the court is very pleased to recognize Mr. Richard Purser here as the attorney for the petitioners, Ms. Joanne and Mr. Michael Colorado. And Mr. and Ms. Colorado are present, along with the star of the show, Ms. Charlotte. And then we also have Ms. Sonia Sims here. Ms. Sims is the attorney and guardian ad litem for the child. Ms. Denise Story is joining now. Ms. Story is the CASA volunteer assigned to the case with CASA of South Texas. Ms. Connie Lopez is here as well with CASA of South Texas. And then Ms. Jacqueline Garcia is here as the adoption worker with Belong. And so it's great to see you all, Ms. Story. Glad you got on board, and I'm very excited to go ahead and get this done this morning. So Mr. Purser, I'm going to go ahead and swear in Mr. and Ms. Colorado, Ms. Garcia, and Ms. Story. I think that should cover all of your potential witnesses, correct?
It will, Judge. Thank you.
All right. If I can get each of you to please raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Well, thank you so much. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Purser.
Thank you, Judge. And I would ask if the court would please take judicial notice of the adoption materials on file as well as the underlying CPS materials.
I'll be happy to do so.
Thank you, Judge. And for brevity's sake, would Mr. and Mrs. Colorado have leave to respond in unison?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Colorado, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent. And you're here today asking the court to grant an adoption, is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
And who are you asking the court to grant the adoption for?
For Charlotte. Yeah.
Excellent. And has Charlotte been in your home for more than 6 months?
Yes. Yes.
And this is the court of continuing jurisdiction, is that correct?
Yes.
And you believe it is in Charlotte's best interest that an adoption be granted?
Yes. Yes.
And you realize once the court grants an adoption, it becomes permanent? No yes. Taking it back?
No, no, we're good.
Fantastic. And are you asking that the court grant a name change today?
Yes.
And that name change will be to Natalia?
Yes.
That is Natalia, Natalya. You believe it's in the child's best interest that the adoption be granted today?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Have you had an opportunity to sign all of the adoption subsidy paperwork prior to today's hearing?
Yes.
Thank you very much. With that, I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Purser. Ms. Sims, do you have any questions for Mr. and Ms. Colorado?
Mr. and Ms. Colorado, this would make your family complete, correct? Natalia will be joining her sister?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, great. And so you have been waiting quite a while for this day to come.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Mr. Purser, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. I will call Ms. Garcia.
All right. Ms. Garcia has been sworn, so you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Garcia, you're the adoption caseworker?
Yes.
And how long have you been on this case?
Approximately 1 month.
Excellent. And in that process, you reviewed all of the materials from prior workers?
Yes, correct.
Have you had any opportunity to observe Charlotte, Natalia in her current placement?
Yes, I was able to travel out there last month, and they definitely have a bond. They respond to all her needs quickly.
Fantastic. Do you believe it would be in the child's best interest for the adoption to be granted?
Yes.
You have no concerns?
No, no concerns.
Thank you very much. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Any questions, Ms. Sims?
No questions. Thank you.
All right. Any other witnesses, Mr. Purser?
I would briefly call Ms. Story, please.
All right. Ms. Story's been sworn as well. So, Ms. Story, if you could just unmute yourself. Let me see if that helps. There should be a button there for you to, there we go. All right. Mr. Purser, you may proceed.
Thank you. Ms. Story, you are the CASA worker?
Yes.
And have you had an opportunity to observe the child in her current placement?
Well, no, due to the pandemic, I have not met with them face to face, but I've seen plenty of had a lot of FaceTime, and she sends numerous pictures. Every time we text, I get pictures.
Excellent. And so you have been able to observe, just not in person, but
Right.
remotely, you have observed the child in her placement?
Yes,
And do you believe that all of her needs are being met in that placement?
definitely. I think it
And-
took way too long for it to happen.
Excellent. So you believe adoption is in her best interest?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
I have
Purser,
no
Ms. Sims.
Question. No
All right.
questions. Thank you.
Well, then with that, Mr. Purser, is there anything else?
No other witnesses, Judge. We would just urge petitioner's motion for adoption. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. And Ms. Sims, do you support the requested relief today as the attorney and guardian ad litem for this precious child?
Absolutely. This has been a long time coming. This puts Natalia exactly where she needs to be with her parents and her sibling. It's been quite a long journey, and I know the family's very excited to celebrate today. So please grant the adoption, including name change, and order them to celebrate.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I will say this, based on the testimony the court has heard today, in conjunction with my review of the file and all supporting documents and my own knowledge of the family, given that I've presided over this case and the previous case, I am very familiar with the commitment that you've shown, again, to this precious baby girl. And I can absolutely find that this adoption is in her best interest in all aspects. And it is my profound honor and privilege to be in a position to grant this adoption in all aspects, including the requested name change. And I want to congratulate you because you are a forever family and you do need to celebrate. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everything.
Yes.
Thank you. Would you all like a photograph, Your Honor? May we take a screenshot?
Absolutely.
Okay. Everybody say cheese.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Got it.
Wonderful. Well, I know you waited longer than you wanted, but I hope today is worth the wait because it's great to see your beautiful family. So appreciate the commitment that you've shown to her and this commitment you're making going forward as well. So thank you all, Ms. Story, Ms. Sims, Mr. Purser, and Ms. Garcia, Ms. Lopez, everyone who helped us get to this point. It takes a village, it certainly does. So I appreciate it. And I just wish you the very best going forward.
Thank you. We appreciate all the help.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, there will be no further hearings in this case, and the court will dismiss the department as the managing conservator. So if I am sent an order, not just for the adoption, I know I have that decree, I'll sign that now. But if I get the dismissal order for the department, I'll sign that too. So thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day and a great celebration of this precious baby girl. So.
Thank you. You guys enjoy.
Thank you. All right. If there's anything further, Bradley, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. De Los Santos.
Morning.
Where is Nayeli? Where is she placed right now?
She is placed at an RTC in Canal County.
Does that RTC have a name? Okay. And she went there in June of last year?
Yes, that is correct.
I know that the previous attorney and guardian ad litem had some issues with the placement. Are you aware of those?
Yes, I am.
And what specifically were the issues?
There were issues about, well, first with just scheduling meetings with all parties, not being able to, they would give like 4 different dates and it would be like, no, we can't do any of those 4 dates. Also issues about Nayeli stating that her attorney and CASA worker had given her some razors on an outing and said they were the ones that provided it to her. And then pretty much, I guess it was like, so y'all gave her razors. It wasn't a question like, hey, she said that you gave her this. Is this really what you did? And then also.
So there was some animosity there?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
And then with the Nayeli's sister, we would say we didn't know if that was something good for Nayeli, considering the history, and they would just go against it. Well, we think this would be really good for her to talk to her sister. And
who was saying that?
Her therapist, Camille Coffey, but they never wanted to make the ultimate decision as to whether it was okay. They always wanted to hear it from somebody else. They never wanted for them to say, oh, we are saying that this, it was like, okay, well, we're saying this is good, but you need to say that it's good in order for it to happen. That's pretty much how it was.
Okay. All right. And then you mentioned contact with the sister. We're not talking about Maya, the little one, are we? We're talking about the older one that's the biological sister of Nayeli?
Yes, with Natalie.
Natalie. And Natalie is still in the home from which Nayeli was removed, correct?
To my understanding, yes, she is in that home.
Okay.
In Pearsall.
Do you know if Nayeli is having any kind of unauthorized contact with her?
Not that I'm aware. I spoke with her yesterday. She said that it's actually been a while since she's talked to Natalie. She's not answering her phone calls.
Okay. Have you been to see Nayeli?
Yes.
At the placement?
Yes.
What is your impression, Ms. De Los Santos?
Of her being there or the actual placement?
Just whatever you think, whatever you noticed.
Well, when I see her, she's happy there. She seems to get along well with the staff. She has a great relationship with them. I think it's more the placement. They haven't really given me issues or anything. When I go, I pretty much just ask them to speak with Nayeli and they say okay, and they don't give me a hard time.
Okay. And from your report, it looks like Nayeli is doing exceptionally well in school.
Yes, she is. She is passing all her classes. She made merit student, which is equivalent to like student council in public school. And she's now taking CNA classes.
What's that?
Her CNA classes. What is it? Is it like a certified nursing assistant? I think that's what they are. So yeah.
And her goal is to be a paramedic in the Navy. Is that correct?
In either the Marines or Navy.
Marines or Navy. Okay. So she has very specific goals. And yes. She said she wanted to go to, was it Baptist University?
Yes, Dallas Baptist University.
Dallas Baptist. Okay. So she seems to have very strong ideas about what she wants to do in the future.
Yes.
Okay. Has she gotten into any trouble there at the placement, or is everything going fine?
She was in an altercation a couple months ago. I actually just heard from the CAMAL, the juvenile probation officer, on Wednesday. She contacted me. They have offered her deferred prosecution and placing her on an informal probation for 6 months.
Okay. And have you spoken with her court-appointed, I assume it's court-appointed attorney, regarding how that's going to what's going to happen with that?
No, I have not. I haven't talked to them actually about it. I just received all that documentation yesterday. So.
Okay. And as her caseworker, are you not required to be in court with her when she does go, or do they do Zoom court like we do? I don't know.
Well, with the probation officer, I did tell her, she did want her to sign off on some paperwork. I did send it over to Mr. Davis. I wasn't sure if he was going to want to be present for that, as to when she signs all that paperwork.
Ms. Valdez, can you?
Okay. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I don't know who that was talking.
Okay. All right. So she's doing well in school. She has had some legal trouble. How old is she now?
She turned 16. She just turned 16.
And what are we doing for her in terms of supporting her, like with the PALS or Circle of Support? What's going on with that?
She has completed all of her PAL classes. A Circle of Support will be offered to her. And if she accepts it, then one will be scheduled.
So she seems very focused and directed on career goals and academic achievement. So would it seem that getting this Circle of Support together as soon as possible would be in her best interest?
Yes, as long as she does have to accept it though.
Right. Do you anticipate that being a problem?
I don't, no.
Okay. So is the department wanting Nayeli to stay in this placement given the previous concerns?
Well, so I was actually notified this week too that her level of care has been dropped to moderate, and effective June 1st, that'll be an effective June 1st. So on May 1st, they will give me a 30-day notice for a discharge from there, because she'll no longer meet that level.
Well, okay. And your report mentioned there was an incident of self-harm. Can you be more specific?
So I did talk to her about that this week as well, about the self-harm. She stated that she was just really angry and she didn't want to hit anybody. So she pretty much just got like a piece of metal that she had and she was just scratching on her arm.
Okay, is she okay?
But I did look at her arm. It didn't look like any deep wounds. She said it was just scratching.
Okay. Does Nayeli want to be present at these hearings? Has she ever been offered the opportunity or asked to attend?
She does talk about attending. I think her more is like whenever the court hearings are happening, she doesn't like to miss certain things for like school, like such as yesterday when I was visiting with her, I cut the visit a little short because she wanted to get into her CNA class.
If I understand your answer to my question, the department is recommending Nayeli stay in this placement until such time as the discharge notice is received, and then the department will secure an appropriate, or will be already working on securing an appropriate placement?
Yes.
Okay, do you have any in mind that you're looking at?
I know there were a few that were mentioned, but if I'm not mistaken, she had been there in the past. It's more of whether they're going to be willing to accept her back is the issue that's going to come up.
Okay. Is she on schedule to graduate, or would she graduate early even?
She's scheduled to graduate. She's actually in 10th grade. So she's all right on track.
Okay. All right. Has anyone talked to her about starting to think about college since she's talking about going to the Dallas college up there? I mean, are we working with her on that?
Well, I have talked to her about going to college. I think it's just her flip-flopping back and forth whether she wants to join the military or go to college. I know she really is set on joining the military. Whether that's going to be reserved or active is still up.
Okay. Okay. So you're asking that the department remain as the permanent managing conservator for Nayeli at this time, correct?
Yes.
All right. And is there anything else important that I may not have asked you that you would like to bring up?
No, I don't think so.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
Mr. Davis, any questions for Ms. De Los Santos?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. De Los Santos, Are you sure that the department's gonna have a placement available for her once she's having to leave this placement at New Life?
I will start talking with the intake and placement team, starting on her Common App and having that all prepared before May 1st, before I receive that discharge.
And if in fact placement is not found, then what would be the plan?
I know that New Life can offer an extension. And I know that that's something she did talk about, but wasn't 100% sure if she wanted the extension or not.
Now, Nayeli had mentioned to me some family, but then called me back and said, no, don't worry about the family at this point. Is there a viable family for her to go to, or is?
I'm sorry, everybody was frozen right now. I think it's my internet, so
okay.
I did not hear that.
So Nayeli has mentioned to me, I believe it was an aunt, in a phone call I had with her. And then she called me back maybe a week later and said, oh, never mind with that aunt. Is there a viable family for her at this point?
Not that I'm aware of. She's never mentioned an aunt to me at all. So
okay. And so you're not aware of any biological family of her?
No.
Okay. In my communication with her, she seemed really focused on what she was doing and doing really well. Has that not been the experience over the last year or so? Or however long she's been with the department?
Since receiving the case in October, she was doing okay at first, and then she went really downhill and then came back up. Maybe like, I want to say maybe January is whenever she started working really hard on becoming a merit student, and she knew a lot of the things that she needed to do correctly in order to become a merit student, like not self-harming, not running away or doing things like that.
And the issue with self-harming seemed to be minimized when I spoke with her and her therapist. Were the wounds pretty superficial?
They looked more like scratches when I saw her arms. I did see, she does have scars from her past. Mm-hmm. So she kept saying, these are old scars, these are old scars. And then like the new ones just, I mean, they were a little redder. So they looked just like scratches, like maybe that she was just scratching real deep with something. And that's how she explained it to me, was that was a piece of metal that she was scratching with.
And considering that incident, she wasn't moved, she wasn't sent to a behavioral hospital or anything like that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I have, Judge. I pass.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any other questions for Ms. De Los Santos? Can I just ask you, you said you would be consulting the placement team for Belong about options for her. I mean, what is your recommendation? A therapeutic foster home, a regular foster home? I mean, what has Nayeli expressed to you, if anything, about what her next placement would look like and what she'd like to see?
I would say a therapeutic foster home. She has stated that she knows that she still needs a little more help. Okay. She understands that her level of care has dropped, but that she herself knows there's still little things that she does need to work on.
All right, great. Well, thank you. Any additional questions? If not, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Well, then, can I know, Mr. Davis, you've just got on the case, and you know, I think Ms. Hellrung's motion was pretty clear. It sounds like, and I signed it without having a hearing because it was clear to me that there were just, Ms. Hellrung would not have asked for that if she did not think it was in Nayeli's best interest. So I hope that a fresh start is helping. What would you like to report at this time?
Well, Judge, I've talked to Nayeli twice, and I guess, you know, I didn't really have anything to base. It's kind of what I've heard, and I mean, she seemed like she was focused, and you know, I heard about the incident, but even with the therapist, it seemed as if they kind of were minimalizing it. I mean, she just kind of acted out, but it wasn't something, I guess, that she had previously done that. I mean, it wasn't as bad, I guess. Let me just say that. And I'm getting good reports, and they're keeping in touch with me. She called me with her therapist. I don't know if it was the manager or the therapist, sent me an email here recently saying she's doing well. You know, all the things in regards to her being in CNA, you know, in those classes, she was very excited about that. She seems like, you know, as far as school, she was very excited about the fact that, you know, she was essentially like I don't know what a merit student is what, they called it. And I mean, my first impression, you know, with her, she could be acting with me, but she seems really focused, and the placement seems appropriate. But again, I don't know the history, and I don't know what Ms. Hellrung has dealt with. But they've been in touch with me, and maybe that's why, because of whatever happened prior to me. But I think she's doing fine. I think her concern when she initially called me was like, "Hey, my levels of care is about to go down. What's going to happen? What's going on? Like, where am I going to go? Where am I going to be?" And I think that was her concern. So at that point, she did bring up a family member, and she said something about an aunt. And so I said, well, you know, I'll talk to CPS about it. But I'd say within a day or two, she called me back and said, never mind on that person. So I don't know who she was referring to. I'll follow up with her. But she's doing fine in the placement right now. I mean, you know, I do have a little bit of concern with the self-harm, but they seem to make it seem as if it was just superficial, and she wasn't, you know, she was in a better place. You know, I guess she would have reacted completely different at a different time. But again, I don't know, Your Honor. I think she's doing okay right now. I think she's doing great. She seems focused. She reaches out to me herself. And so, you know, it would be great for her if she's willing to participate in some of this, so we can kind of see how she's doing. She can vocalize how she's doing. So.
All right. Well,
nothing's hit me yet, Judge, so I don't know.
Well, no, I think, you know, sometimes you just need a fresh perspective, and I appreciate your willingness to step in and have that and build that relationship. And I hope that this is, you know, a good, it seems to be, if we're at the point where we're needing to explore our next placement, to have some fresh eyes on the case is helpful. So I appreciate that. And Ms. Nieto, anything you would like to add regarding your involvement with Nayeli and what you're seeing?
No, Your Honor. Everything Vanessa said is kind of what I've seen as well. I mean, she's doing really well right now. We did have problems before, and then as soon as Ms. Hellrung stated how she felt and what she was seeing, they started communicating with us a lot more. So that's what Mr. Davis is seeing right now. It wasn't like that before. We have been more in contact with the placement and with Nayeli as well. The only concern I have right now is really the placement, finding a good placement for her, because I don't want her to take any steps backwards. And I know she is really enjoying school right now and her CNA program. And I don't want to lose that. I think we need to be very careful where we find her a placement, but as well, just encourage her to continue. It's a good thing summer's coming up, so she won't be in school at the time. But if we can get her to a good place before school starts again, then I think that would be good for her. I know she has expressed some concerns about me being her casa. Not, you know, she feels maybe that I might not want to be her casa anymore because I haven't visited with her by myself. It's always been with her at Leiden, but that came back when this issue with that Vanessa mentioned, with her saying that we had given her certain items on one of the visits. So just to cover myself, I just don't want to be going up there and seeing her by myself.
Yeah.
I always want someone else to be with me. So that's where that came from. But I have been with Nayeli for a long time. I would like to continue, but I'm also having some medical issues there. So I don't know what's going to happen. So for now, I enjoy being her CASA, and I really appreciate what I'm seeing in her, that focus that wasn't there maybe a year ago, but now I see it, and I can see it in the progress that she's making in all areas as well. I do have a problem with New Life in certain things. They do minimize a lot of the things that the behaviors that she was having. They would minimize as far as my perspective. But I think we're at a place now where they know how we feel and they're working harder on it. And it's gotten a lot better.
Well, thank you, Ms. Nieto. And I appreciate that perspective and your dedication to Nayeli. I really do. I thank you for all that you've done for her. And, you know, it was clear to me in reading Ms. Hellrung's motion and hearing the testimony today, Nayeli is making progress, but it hasn't been it does not sound like it has been the easiest road for parties to advocate for Nayeli in this placement. And, but it's clear that she has done well. And I am very happy to hear about the progress that she's made. And I'm very happy to hear that she's found something that really gives her a sense of purpose and that she enjoys. And I think gives her a window into her future and what she's capable of doing. So this CNA program sounds like it's been, I would think, a big part of her success right now, because she can visualize her future and see what she's capable of achieving in her life. And I think in terms of looking at other options for placement, you know, allowing and assessing options that would kind of play into or give her continuing opportunities to work in that field, to continue. I don't know if she gets her certification at the end of this class or if there's ongoing classes that she would need. I'm not familiar with the types of programs that are offered in high school for that, but that would seem to me really important to look into as we're assessing placement, is the option for these continuing educational programs that fit into where she really, you know, has those interests and those sort of long-term career goals. So I didn't ask, I know that she's completed PAL classes. Have you all had a circle of support for her recently? I didn't hear one. I feel like that might be something that would be helpful to have now as you're assessing your next placement too. It might be very helpful to have within the span of now and June 1st to really assess, and you can talk about and look into what she'd like to continue to see as far as her education is concerned, because it's fantastic to hear that she's a merit scholar, that she's a merit student and that she is wanting to be a leader. All of that needs to be encouraged. And, we need to look into placement options that have those same kind of educational opportunities for her. So I'm going to continue the placement with the understanding that it is short-term, given the progress that she's made and her reduced level of care. And so I'll order the department to seek, through Belong, to seek a therapeutic foster home and to, consider the educational goals that she has in terms of, finding and facilitating that placement. And the court is going to find that the department, through Belong, is making reasonable efforts to achieve permanency for Nayeli, and that, she is making progress at this time in that regard. We are going to be back for another permanency review after final order on September the 1st at 9:30. And Ms. Nieto, I respect whatever your decision ultimately is regarding your ongoing advocacy for Nayeli. Obviously, I would love for you to stay on board because you have that established relationship. And, you know, I think it's important for Nayeli to know, you know, and especially since it's a failed adoptive placement too, that you know, some people just don't give up on her, you know, despite the ups and downs of life, that and you know, I just think it would be wonderful if you could, but I know you have your health issues that you need to address. But you know, if it's possible, I would love for you to stay on board. And I think it would send a very, very strong signal of support to Nayeli that I think would help her continue to make progress. So I'll let you think that over. So thank you so much. And then again, we'll be back on September the 1st at 9:30. All parties wish for these hearings to remain via Zoom. All right. Okay, I'll record that agreement, Ms. Bradley.
Your Honor, I would like to ask for clarification about the CNA course. I'm not understanding if it's just only offered in the placement she's in, or if it is something online that she can continue with.
I don't know either. I mean, I can't, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear because I don't know myself, Ms. Knop.
CNA classes have a lot of on-hand training, hands-on training. So it wouldn't just be online. Usually they are in-person classes. And I know now they are starting to offer them in high school settings. So.
Okay. But it's not just, it's an ongoing program, is it not? I mean, it's not like they can knock it out in a semester, I wouldn't think. Is that fair to say? They can do it? Okay. Yes. All right. Okay. Well then if she can, and I guess that's why I think this circle of support is so important too, because I don't know if she's immediately eligible for any kind of employment that might, you know, that you might want to consider and encourage as part of, there's an obvious interest there that needs to be fostered. So I don't know exactly how to say what I'd like to see happen other than a real concerted exploration of the opportunities for her to focus on this area of interest, because it sounds like she will finish the school year in this placement regardless, and then she may be eligible to receive her certification by virtue of her participation and completion of the program. So I think that's one of the reasons I want that circle of support for her as you're assessing placement options. So anything else?
Thank you.
All right. If not, thank you all so much. Fine. You may proceed, Ms. Bradley.
Thank you, Judge. All right, Ms. Schoaf. Looks like Jeremy is 2 years old, coming up on 3 here in June, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Can you please tell us what he's doing?
He's doing really well in the home. He is always so happy when I go visit him. Very well bonded with the family, loves playing outside. I saw him playing baseball with his foster sibling last time I went and visited him, playing water balloons. He really does just enjoy being a kid.
Okay. Is he meeting all his developmental milestones?
Yes, ma'am.
Has he been in this foster home? How long has he been there?
He's been there since June of 2022, and prior to that for almost a year prior.
Okay. And and so how does he get along with the siblings?
He thinks his foster sister is his sister. Last time I saw him, they were painting fake nail polish on a doll and each other. You know, every time they're hip and hip together.
Are there any concerns that the court needs to be aware of?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What is the permanency goal for Jeremy?
Unrelated adoption.
Okay. And is the department requesting to continue as the permanent managing conservator until such time?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you been to the home where he's living?
I was there last month.
And just for the court, if you will, please describe what the home is like.
Certainly. It's open, very clean. They make sure that they have a play area right next to the dining room where the kids can easily play between the dining room and living room. They have a play swing outside. It's clean and appropriate and definitely set up so that they can have fun while being in line of sight. Okay.
And is Jeremy in any kind of daycare or any kind of special services?
He is attending daycare Monday through Friday. The last I knew, he was still receiving some speech therapy.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that. How is he doing with his speech?
It's progressing very nicely. It's been a major turnaround ever since he had that ear surgery, and he is speaking more and more.
Okay. So do you know about how much longer it's anticipated he will need the speech therapy?
No, ma'am, I'm not sure on that one.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you. Pass the witness.
All right. Ms. Helrung, any questions from you?
Yes. Ms. Show, he is about to turn 3. Do the Suttons know how to get in touch with the local school district, as he will no longer be qualified for ECI once he does turn 3?
I would assume they do, as Ms. Sutton does work at the school, but I'll make sure Victoria, the new adoption worker, helps with that transition.
Awesome. Now, between here and the last hearing, or the last hearing and now, the paternal grandmother has filed a petition for adoption. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Just without getting into too many details, as we're going to set this for another hearing, what is the department's position as to the child being placed with grandmother at this time?
We're opposed to it.
Can you tell the court why?
When I had spoken to paternal grandmother back in June, and I asked her if she wanted to be considered for placement for Jeremy, her response was she could not handle that child.
Okay, so this petition, you were never contacted for visits since the time he left in June of 2022?
That's correct.
Okay. Is it the department's plan for adoption by the current foster family, the Suttons?
Yes, ma'am.
And they're willing, able, and ready at this point?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. Now, you said that you had transferred this to adoptions. Has that formally happened?
Yes, ma'am, it has formally happened.
Okay. Who's the adoption worker?
Miss Victoria Gonzalez.
Okay. And she will be participating in any further future hearings, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And have all of the documents, to include the HUSIG, been prepared for Jeremy?
From my understanding, when I spoke to Victoria this morning, everything's done. They've already done settled on adoption subsidy. Everything's completed.
Okay, so really the only barrier now is just dealing with that petition from Grandma.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Any other witnesses, Ms. Bradley?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Any witnesses, Ms. Helrung?
No, Your Honor. I think for purposes of this hearing, we've covered everything.
All right. Do you have a report of your own for Jeremy?
I do. I've spent a lot of time with Ms. Bradley and Ms. Schoaf after that petition was filed. So I've been in communication with Ms. Sutton. They have an attorney, but we're just waiting to have a hearing. I believe the department yesterday filed a motion to quash. And so we're just waiting for that. I think he is extraordinarily bonded with the foster family. And my concern is how he was when he came back after being placed with his aunt. He was pretty traumatized. So I'm just looking forward to having that hearing before the court, and then at that point moving forward with adoption. But otherwise, he's happy, he's bonded. You know, it's just a completely different kid from when he was placed.
All right. Well, that's very good to hear, and a very good report overall. So at this time, the court is going to continue the current placement for Jeremy. Find that continuation of that placement is in his best interest, that all of his physical, emotional, and developmental needs are being met there presently, and that it's in his best interest to remain there. Court at this time is going to find that the department through Belong is making reasonable efforts to achieve permanency for Jeremy, and the court approves of the efforts that have been made. I'm glad the case has been transferred to an adoption unit, and we will address the adoption petition of the paternal grandmother, I guess, at a later date, and I'll review your motion and have that set. So I don't have a date on the docket yet that I'm aware of, but we'll work on that. I can tell you that our next permanency review after final order it is going to be set for September 1st at 10:30. If that setting is ultimately necessary, it may not be. So anything else that we need to address at this time? Caleb Brooks et al.
No,
all right. We are set for a parties are permanency review after final order, and the department is present today, represented by Miss Marilyn Bradley and joined by Miss Catherine Schoaf and Miss Christy Knopp with Belong. In addition, Miss Maria Garza is present as the attorney and guardian ad litem for the children. Miss Connie Lopez is present as with CASA of South Texas, and Yolanda Gonzalez, the caregiver for the youngest children, is here as well.
Yes,
so.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Schoaf, can you please start with Caleb and tell us how he's doing in his placement?
Caleb is doing well. He is now placed at Meadowlands. He did tell me he enjoys the school they have there and is participating in lots of extracurricular activities. He is receiving individual and group therapy. And now, yes, I did receive an email yesterday advising he does have some medical concerns. No concerns regarding dental. This is the only medical concern I'm aware of.
Okay. And how's he doing in school there?
He's doing well. From my understanding, he's passing all his classes and he's really excited. He's taken an interest into engineering, so he's looking at avenues to learn more about that.
How old is he right now? 14?
14.
14? Sometimes there are engineering-oriented classes for kids his age during the summer. It may be too late, I don't know, but is that something that could be looked into?
Certainly.
Otherwise, do you know what his plans for the summer will be?
Not as of yet. I have not seen Caleb since February, as he's now assigned the adoption worker. I saw him for a sibling visit, but I haven't spoken to him recently about summer.
Okay, and who is the adoption worker now?
Miss Corlin Val.
Okay. Is she here with us today?
I don't see her on, no, ma'am.
Okay. All right, so Caleb is doing extremely well, and you've mentioned possible concerns. What is the permanency plan for him?
Unrelated adoption.
And is he open to that?
Yes, that's actually what he told me he wanted.
Did he in fact specify he wanted unrelated as opposed to family?
Yes, he did. Okay.
He did have some issues before he came to Meadowland. I think psychological or suicidal. Is he over those concerns to your knowledge? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good. All right, so when is he going to be looking to do PALS, or do you know?
I do not know.
Okay, but that can be addressed by Belong, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what about the other children? Let's go to Rory and Renee, the twins. Can you tell us how they're doing?
They're doing very well. They say they really enjoy school. They have a great teacher. When Rory had fractured her wrist, her teacher even came to the house when Rory was unable to go to school, so she kept up with her schooling. They get to go to SeaWorld on a regular basis. They've recently gone to the zoo, which they state they loved. They're current on their medical and dentals. There seems to be no concerns.
Okay. They're in first grade?
Kinder.
Oh, okay. They're going to be 6 in June, right?
Correct.
Do you know if they're going to be able to pass to the next grade?
Yes, they will be.
All right. Are there any dental or medical concerns with them?
No, ma'am.
Anything the court needs to be aware of with them?
No, ma'am.
Where are they placed exactly?
With Miss Yolanda Gonzalez.
Okay. And that's where the last child is too, right? Abram?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I saying his name correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So he's about to turn 1, is that right?
About to turn 2.
2. Okay. And how is he doing?
He's doing really well. He's gained a lot of independence. He loves walking and running around. He loves the fact there's a playground literally just real close to his house. He's always wanting to go over there. He has really enjoyed going to daycare. He says hi to everybody. He's doing really well medical, dental needs. There's no concerns. So he's really growing and meeting his milestones.
Okay. And you said you saw Caleb at a sibling visit. So you were there with all these children and Caleb was actually visiting with them, correct?
That is correct. I took them to the movies to see Puss in Boots.
Is Caleb keeping in contact with them? I know he's a lot older.
Yes, they are scheduled to have weekly virtual visits. And then they do make sure at least once a month to visit in person. Hope for that to increase come the summer, but with school, it's very difficult.
Okay. And what is the permanency plan for these 3 younger children?
PMC to Miss Yolanda Gonzalez.
Okay. I think for a while, the department through Belong has been working on licensing, correct?
That is correct.
Have you worked on that as well?
I've worked with Miss Rebecca, our kinship worker, and she has informed me she's tried with 20 different agencies and has not been able to get anyone that is willing to license due to the number of children in the home.
And what is the number of children?
7.
Okay. And you have been to the home?
Yes, ma'am.
Can Miss Gonzalez accommodate 7 children without putting them, on the front doorstep?
Yes, ma'am.
So there's a place for every child to sleep?
Yes.
Okay. And what about as far as clothing them, feeding them, providing for them?
She's been doing great, meeting all of their needs. I've never seen any concerns in the home. She's very resourceful.
So after trying 20 different licensing agencies, there has not been anyone willing to accept Miss Gonzalez to be licensed, correct?
That is correct.
What does the department recommend to the court? What does the department through Belong want to do at this point?
To grant Miss Yolanda Gonzalez permanent managing conservatorship.
And do you believe that would be in these children's best interest?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
This way they get to maintain their bonds with their family. They get to stay together, minus Caleb. These three are very bonded to Miss Yolanda. It's also what Renee and Rory, the twins, have verbalized. They do not want to leave. This is where they want to stay and where they want their permanent home.
And do you see a bond between these children and the rest of the family, including Miss Gonzalez?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
How would you describe that bond?
It's very close. They're part of the family. You would not have known they've been in the home a year and a half. It's like they've been there the whole time.
Is the home an acceptable, safe, and appropriate placement? Well, not just placement, but permanent home for these children?
Yes, ma'am.
And is there any other alternative besides sending them off to some other foster home for unrelated adoption, as far as you know, as the caseworker?
Not to my knowledge.
So you believe this to be in the best interest of the children, given what they have expressed and your observation of the home and of Miss Gonzalez's efforts in caring for them?
Yes, ma'am.
So are they aware that they would not be receiving adoption subsidies and that type of financial support if the court were to approve the permanency goal?
Yes, ma'am.
And they're fine with that?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what the department through Belong is requesting the court to do, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to add that you feel is important in making this recommendation that I might not have asked you about?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, and pass the witness. I'm sorry. The department would no longer be the permanent managing conservator if this were to happen, right? We would need to be filing a modification to transfer conservatorship to Ms. Gonzalez?
That's correct.
Okay. And otherwise, Caleb would stay in the department's conservatorship, correct?
That's correct.
Pass the witness.
Ms. Garza, questions for Ms. Cho?
No question, Your Honor. Of course, these two little girls in particular, I mean, they're fully adjusted in their home. So I'm glad that the department was able to work out this arrangement, and I'm fully in support of the PMC. I understand getting resources, and further assistance would be very beneficial to them, but this is home and they're with the other sibling, baby that's there. And what I've known also from, communicating with the placement throughout this case is that she's very frugal. She's really good with budgeting, and she's made it this far. And I know she's expressed to Ms. Shope, and she's expressed to me too, that she's willing to be a permanent option no matter what. So she's done it at this point, and she's providing all of their income. So I have no concern with them continuing with this arrangement, because I would hate to have them move anywhere else. So, and as far as Caleb, I wasn't aware of the recent medical concerns, but I do know that his levels improved, but there's still something to watch out there just to monitor his mental health. I'm glad that he's open to adoption. The only concern that I have at this point is how soon we can find a family for him or a placement for him. Because I feel like the longer he stays in a facility, we're going to end up having these mental health issues, probably resurface or not really improve. That's just worry. And I don't know what the turnaround time is for that, or where we are or where we belong is as far as, finding that potential placement.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Garza. Ms. Kelly, glad you got on and stayed on. I know you were trying real hard at the beginning there, and so it's good to see you. What would you like to report?
I absolutely agree that the current placement is home for Rory and Renee and Abram, and they are part of the family. Of course, resources would be helpful for them, but they do also have a support system, and both family, but also community and church and other places. And we'll continue to see that they have support, even if it's not officially through adoption resources. And of course, they would really rather adopt, but we'll see if they can get to that point. But I think right now, permanent managing conservatorship for Yolanda and Steve is the right thing for them. I am concerned about Caleb longer term, and partly, as Mary was mentioning, the longer that he's in, the harder it is to find a permanent home. But where he's at right now is the right thing for him too. And I don't know officially what happens at this point if those younger ones have a permanent placement and Caleb doesn't. Can I remain on the case for Caleb and not officially for the others? Okay.
Yes.
I would like to do that and try to follow through with him till we find what is the permanent right thing.
Well, thank you, Ms. Kelly. I appreciate hearing that, and definitely appreciate your willingness to stay on board so that we can work to, achieve permanency for Caleb as well. But based on the testimony that everyone has provided today, and my review of the file, the court at this time will continue the respective placements of the children, find that continuation of each of those placements are in their individual best interest, that all of their physical, emotional, developmental, and academic needs are being met there presently, and that it's in their best interest to remain where they are. And as for Caleb, that it's the least restrictive placement available to him, given his special needs and individual circumstances. In addition, the court at this time is going to find that the department has exercised reasonable efforts through Belong, to achieve permanency for these children. It is regrettable that we have not been able to get Ms. Gonzalez licensed, because it sounds like there is nothing at all regarding the care that she's provided these children, or the home that she has for them, or anything about her circumstances that is an issue other than the number of children, which is unfortunate that we have such a rigid system for licensing, and that 6 children is just, in the past couple of years, that has proved to be a just a non-starter because of the federal lawsuit that's underway. And I wish that that proceeding could see some of these ancillary effects, that there was knowledge not just of what's going on with the plaintiffs in that case, but how some of the responses to that litigation has really hurt families like this one, and caused us to have a bind when it's clear they need to stay where they are, and they should get the resources because the department in all other aspects supports the placement, and there are no concerns. So it's regrettable, but we can't force agencies to license individuals. That is the system we have in the state, is that it is the licensing agency's option. And when we have these hard, fast rules, it's hard to work around them. So at this time, I support the plan for a transfer of conservatorship for the 3 youngest children to Ms. Gonzalez. The department needs to prepare a petition to modify, and we'll get that set on our court's docket for as soon as you want it heard, because there's no one that you need to, provide notice to. The other thing I'll just mention is that once Ms. Gonzalez is the managing conservator for these children, she could petition to adopt, and that would be outside of the departments. If adoption is really the option that permanency option that she wants, that is something that's available once she's the managing conservator. So it's just something to keep in mind as well. As far as Caleb, I'm glad that we're going to have an adoption worker. Not that you're not doing an amazing job, Ms. Schoaf, but to have someone who can really start the active recruitment, get him on tear. I have hope. He's a good kid. And I have hope that we'll find that family for him. And when you've been doing this as long as I have, your faith in the system gets rocked at times, but I've seen weirder things happen in my time, both on the bench and working in this field. So I really think it's definitely something, if we all focus on and encourage Caleb's continued stability and progress and hope, I think we'll find that family for him. So we will be back for our next permanency review after final order. That may be ultimately just involving Caleb if we're addressing the modification prior to this, but that would be September the 1st at 10. And again, once you file the petition to modify, this court will get it on the docket when all parties are available. So thank you all so much. Is there anything else that we need to address at this time? We're set for a hearing involving you all. A compliance hearing, in this case involving court-ordered services. The department's president, represented by Ms. Marilyn Bradley, joined by Ms. Marilyn Guerra. Ms. Cecilia Hellrung is here as the attorney for Ms. Christina Cavazos. Ms. Cavazos, I believe, may be joining now by phone. And then we don't yet have Ms. Stacy January on the call. She is the attorney ad litem for the children. So, Ms. Bradley, what do you have to report at this time? I believe, have you been in touch with Ms. Hellrung regarding the developments in this case? Is she aware of the department's position?
She is, Your Honor. I've spoken with both Stacy January and Miss Cecilia Hellrung yesterday, letting them know what was going on, that the department had taken possession of the children in an exigent removal due to the fact that they were back in the care of the grandmother whose mental health problems have created a dangerous environment for these children, and also due to some issues involving Ms. Cavazos's relapse and use of methamphetamine, and also some very strong concerns about her postpartum depression and thoughts that she communicated to her therapist about thoughts of hurting the baby. So with all of that happening yesterday, the department went ahead just to secure the safety of the children. And we, I think we I'm not really sure where we are. I know we got the affidavit done. It was being done overnight.
Your Honor,
And-
I talked to Ms. Bradley. I was told that Ms. Garrow was going to get me information. That has not happened yet. So, Marilyn, if you could please make sure I get that information, that would be really helpful.
What information do you need?
My understanding was there were writings, there were things that she had sent out. I don't know, Ms. Bradley, what was she supposed to be sending me?
There was a social media posting in which the thoughts of harm to the baby are in writing. And I'm so sorry. I probably did not explain that very well to Miss Guerra. So much was going on, and I do apologize.
It's okay.
There were many concerns all at once. If I know Miss Guerra is listening, if you could go ahead and share that with Miss Helrung, that would be really helpful.
Yes, ma'am. I'll send it to her right now.
Thank you.
And I know that the affidavit is still being drafted, so no court dates have been filed at this point.
Actually, there was some missing information. We had to proceed with what we had just to get it done. It's going to have to be amended with information about the father of 2 of the children, but my understanding is the petition is either being worked on or filed. I think there were some errors that were caught. I don't know anything else than that. I've not been able to talk with anyone since we've been in hearings.
All right. Well, for my benefit, I know that the department's in the process of filing the necessary. I mean, I've at least been forwarded I don't know if I don't think the affidavit's been filed, but I've seen a draft affidavit. So I'm aware of what the issues are. Expect that would be filed. And in light of the fact that, the department's already conducted this exigent removal, I'll sign off on that paperwork. To me, I think the best course of action is just to reset today's hearing for the hearing. And right now, I'll be back here next Friday, the 21st, so I can set it at 1 that afternoon. It was 1 that afternoon, right? We can come back at 1 o'clock next Friday. And if you all can work on getting all the necessary, information shared to Ms. Helrung and Ms. January for that matter, she's entitled to it as well. So please just share so that, and continue to speak and negotiate and confer between now and that time would seem appropriate. Is there anything else that I can help address right now?
I can't think of anything.
All right. Well, we'll just reset today's compliance hearing to be heard in conjunction with the adversary hearing. And that will be next Friday at 1 p.m. That's the 21st.
Your Honor, I just want to make sure, Christina, you're on the call, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, did you hear everything? You know that we're going to have a hearing next Friday at 1 p.m. We're going to hear this case as well as the removal adversary hearing, okay?
Okay.
All right, I will call you offline after we're done here, okay?
Okay, yes, ma'am.
All right, and the parties wish for that hearing to be via Zoom, correct?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay. All right, then that hearing will be via Zoom due to the preferences and agreement of the parties. So, all right, I will see you back next Friday at hearing in this case, and the court will recognize that the department is present. We're waiting for Miss Bradley to get on board. She's not yet with us. She's the attorney for the department, but Miss Adela Salazar, Miss Lisa Juarez are both here with the long, and Miss Veronica Orozco is here with the department. We have Mr. Shea Davis here. He is the attorney for Miss Rose Zapata. Ms. Laura Wingate Hernandez is here for Alana Pearsall, who is the attorney for Mr. Samuel Zapata. And we look like we are missing the attorney and guardian ad litem for the children, Ms. Swallow, as well. So if you could reach out to her, she was just with us. Okay, great. Thank you.
Judge, this is Marilyn Bradley. I think the mom was trying to call me because somebody kept calling me and speaking Spanish very urgently. I was actually talking to Shay, and I also got a text from Anna Swallow saying that she's wrapping up a hearing in Bandera and she'll get on as soon as she can.
Okay. Do we have service on Miss Zapata?
Well,
sorry.
We kind of do. They signed, but I haven't seen them yet, Judge. I'm told they didn't really know how to write anything or understand what they were signing.
All right. Well, okay. Maybe I know, Mr. Davis, you said you had some requests of the court as well, but it might be beneficial to set this with an interpreter. I think that's one thing that would be helpful. So a reset with an interpreter might be helpful. And Mr. Davis, you mentioned you had some additional requests of the court at this time?
Well, Judge, just to kind of explain it, and I just have one request. In speaking with the mother more than once, I think she has a serious intellectual disability, as well as there may be some mental health. And I don't think she fully understands what I'm explaining, nor I don't believe she can comprehend what I'm telling her. I don't think she has the mental capacity to understand. And for that reason, Judge, I think that she may need a representative, a gal, or something appointed for her, because I don't feel comfortable in agreeing for her when I don't believe that she understands the full ramifications of this hearing and just the court process in general.
All right. Okay. And just so that I'm clear, so we have that request. That request does seem to mirror, the affidavit for removal does address some significant concerns regarding mental health. Ms. Wingate Hernandez, do you have any requests of this court? I know you wanted time to confer with Ms. Bradley, but if we were to reset, you could continue those discussions and negotiations.
That would be great, Your Honor. I just wanted to tell you that I have assured Mr. Zapata that I would see to it that the department would look to family for possible placement of the children, and the paternal grandmother, I believe I have a telephone number for her. Anyway, I'd like the department to be looking there as a possibility for placement of the children. I don't know if that's been considered, and don't know if they understood from my client that there was family available for the children, or if they were looking that way, if they've even begun to even look. So I'd like to at least know that they've checked, and we could consider the children being placed with family as soon as possible. I told Mr. Zapata that wouldn't certainly happen instantly, but that the department is inclined to always see to it that we try to keep family together if at all possible. So that was the one thing I'd assured him of. And I'm happy. I'd like to talk to the department about limited services because of the source of the allegations and the mental state of the allegations. I think it's very important that we talk.
All right. Can I just confirm, did Ms. Zapata join the call? Okay, I'm not sure. Ms. Swallow, you're here on behalf of the children. In assessing the current state of the case, first of all, service through waivers in which there's questions about the parties' actual understanding of what they were signing, in addition to a potential need for an interpreter. I'm inclined to potentially reset this hearing. But in the meantime, is there anything that you want to make sure that I'm aware of regarding the girls and any requests of the court at this time on their behalf?
Thank you, Judge. My announcement is ready today. I understand the concerns. I wasn't aware that we had Spanish speaking only parents. I observed a visit and they were both speaking English. So just to put that on the record. The girls are doing all right. They're confused. I have serious concerns for them educationally, for their health, for their mental state. I believe that the father fully understands what's happening here. And I am not in agreement to consider the paternal grandmother. I understand if the court wants to order that she be studied, but she lives in the same complex with the family. So she's fully aware of what's going on there, or she should have been. And it's my understanding she was aware. So I don't foresee myself being in agreement to placing those children. Actually, I don't foresee myself being in agreement with placing these children with anyone who is aware of the conditions for which this family was living. I would request that the children not be moved absent a court order, and that, or an emergency, and that any visitation moving forward possibly be therapeutic, or we need a hands-on individual in the room with this family. There should be no virtual visits. It's too confusing and upsetting and disruptive, and I do not want the children to have to travel.
And what's the type of placement they're in at the moment?
They're at a shelter.
In which county?
They are in what county? It's in Seguin at Legacy.
Guadalupe?
Yes, Judge.
Okay.
Gonzalez.
Okay.
Gonzalez.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Were you able to confer with your client in English, Mr. Davis? I guess that I want to make sure.
She can speak English, Your Honor. I've never said she couldn't, but I do believe that she possibly, because the father speaks to her in Spanish, I know that. I think she may have a better understanding if there was somebody speaking in Spanish. I can't speak for her, and she's not here, but I don't know if it's the intellectual disability that she doesn't understand, or I don't know if it's a language barrier. So it may be both. But also, Judge, I didn't bring this up. What I did gather from Mom is that she does have two sisters in Pearsall and a sister-in-law in Pearsall. So I don't know if that's been explored by the department, but that is potential family.
Okay. All right. What I'm going to do is reset this to next Friday. And we can set it, I guess, at 2.
Your Honor, I will be on a plane next Friday. I'm
good
sorry.
for you.
I'll be from Thursday. Yeah. And so I'll be on vacation. Is it possible to set it? I mean, I don't even mind doing it before next Friday.
I can do the 20th, which is Thursday.
If we can do it in the morning, Judge. I'll be on a flight on Thursday, but I'll be out of town on Friday.
Oh, okay. Then I have the 19th. And I could do it at 1.
Works.
That would work for everyone. And we could I'll arrange to have an interpreter present on that date. Do all parties wish to proceed via Zoom? Okay, I kind of need that in this case anyway, because that's a docket I'm scheduled to be in Karnes County. So if that's the only option. So 1 p.m. we can come back. We'll have an interpreter present. In addition, I would like the department to continue to assess any of the relatives. I will say given the nature of the allegations, very clearly the manager of the apartment complex was interviewed and referenced in the affidavit of removal. And it seems to me that if someone lived in the same complex, that may be problematic for consideration as a placement option, given what they knew or should have known regarding the status of these children. And but nothing precludes the department from assessing Miss Zapata. You have the duty to do that, as well as the sisters that were just mentioned by Mr. Davis. So this gives us an additional week to look into that. In the meantime, I will defer to Miss Swallow for now. I don't think that any virtual visits between now and then, if they're upsetting or confusing to the girls, would be warranted. It's just Wednesday, so I don't think we need another visit between now and that date. We can assess where we are on Wednesday. And I think, and I'm going to just order that they stay where they are pending our hearing as well. So the emergency orders would remain in place and will return at 1 p.m. on the 19th via Zoom. Is there anything else?
Your Honor, in regards to our
the guardian, yeah, I'll go ahead and appoint, I think the person on our list was Miss Cecilia Hellrung, and I'll appoint her to serve in that capacity.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
All right.
Your Honor, if you could make it clear for me as to who the worker is. I know, are we changing from an investigative worker to a legal
not
worker?
yet. Not yet. Miss, I mean, I think Miss Salazar is here in anticipation if she'd be needed as the legal conservatorship worker, but Miss Orozco is the investigative worker, and we have not yet, if we're resetting today's hearing, we haven't moved to that stage of the case. So we're still in investigative stage.
So if Miss Orozco could contact me and let me know what her plan for services is so I could explain to Mr. Zapata. He's already expressed his willingness to, he's just concerned about where his children are going to be and when he gets to visit. And I believe that one of the people that Mr. Davis suggested is someone that he had also said on as other possibilities for placement of his children other than people in the complex. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Bradley.
Would it be possible for us, Ms. Laura Wingett Hernandez or the attorneys to just meet briefly after everybody else leaves, if we can go to a breakout room just to kind of make sure that we have a plan going forward?
That's fine. I'm happy to right now excuse everyone else, and I'll set up a breakout room for the attorneys.
Thank you so much.
But all other parties are excused at this time. Thank you so much.